Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Obsessive Compulsive Gaming. I am the Obsessive Compulsive Gamer, and this is my review for Lost Solar Side. So, dear viewer, this particular video game released earlier this month. And just like that beautiful bearded bastard Barry Bertrum, you're probably wondering,
what is this?
Lost Solar Side is an action-adventure role-playing game, heavily inspired by other hack-and-slash video games like Bayonetta, Devil May Cry, and of course the Final Fantasy series. The more action-focused ones anyway. And in this game we assume the role of Kaiser, who embarks on a journey to rescue his sister Louisa and save humanity from the Voidrax, mysterious invaders from across dimensions. So unless you've been living under a rock for quite some time, dear viewers, you've probably seen quite a few conflicting opinions for this video game. Some people are declaring it as the worst thing since they banned smoking in public spaces. Other people are declaring that it's very good, but as you know, the only opinion round here that counts is mine. So let's review this hack-and-slash video game the only way I know how, badly. And let's start with what I absolutely loved about Lost Solar Side. So let's start with that hack-and-slash gameplay. I am an absolute hack-and-slash fanatic. Ninja Gaiden, Bayonetta, Devil May Cry, recently Stellar Blade, all of these games I absolutely adore, and I'm very happy to report that Lost Solar Side is just as good as any of them when it comes to the combat. Granted, it's not quite as flashy as Devil May Cry or Bayonetta. If I had to describe it in a nutshell, this is kind of like Final Fantasy 15, or even Final Fantasy 16. Much more a action role-playing kind of affair. Light attacks, heavy attacks, combos, various weapons including a sword, a scythe, polearms. You can of course upgrade these weapons to do even more damage, cut more limbs off your enemies, you know, that kind of thing. We don't actually get to see any limbs getting cut off of enemies. That's a bit of a shame. I don't mind a bit of bloodletting myself, but of course my favorite serial killer is Jack the Ripper, so why wouldn't I like a bit of bloodletting? Anyway, while the combat isn't quite as flashy as something like Devil May Cry, I found it to be incredibly satisfying. Fast and frenetic, and juggling enemies in the air and sending them across the arena, hacking and slashing them with all the speed of a man who accidentally put cocaine on his morning cereal instead of sugar. But it's not just the combat that I found to be incredibly fun here. The exploration is also rather splendid as well, featuring platforming and platforming. Lots of platforming. You'll occasionally sprout wings to traverse a rather large crevice. You'll teleport across areas. You'll dash in the air. You'll use a double jump. If you played any of these action character type games before, then you'll know exactly what you're getting into here. To go along with all of that action and exploration, this game also has a splendid soundtrack. Absolutely top notch. And I enjoyed it probably as much as I enjoyed the soundtrack for Expedition 33. So that's quite high praise there. And can I just say, while I've mentioned Expedition 33, this really is the year for indie AA video games, really putting the AAA entries to shame. Most of my favorite video games this year have not in fact been the AAA ones, but the AA, which coincidentally is also my favorite kind of battery, so ha ha. Anyway, I also absolutely adored this game's story. Was it cliche? Absolutely. But did it remind me of some of my favorite movies, like Masters of the Universe, or some of my favorite video games like Final Fantasy 15, Final Fantasy 16? It absolutely did. All the way down to a secondary antagonist who wants to turn into a god and rule the world. And I must admit, I was very touched by this game's central theme of a brother trying to rescue his sister, as opposed to trying to rescue some big-breasted bitch who lives in a tower who has gotten herself into a bit of trouble and needs rescuing by a mustachioed plumber. Yes, I am looking at you, Princess Peach. This game's story has absolutely everything that I look for in my favorite video games and favorite movies. Plenty of action, an over-the-top bad guy, a central love story, great sidekicks and side characters, over-the-top action. Wait, did I already say that? Well, it deserves to be said twice. Who doesn't love a bit of over-the-top action? Far as I'm concerned, Lost Solar Side has absolutely everything. But was there anything I didn't like so much in this game? Well, I only really had one teeny tiny nitpick. And no, it was nothing to do with pop-in or performance issues. I personally didn't run into any, and quite frankly, unless a game is completely unplayable, I don't hold the occasional technical glitch or mishap against the game, provided it's a fantastic game, of course. If you're a piece of shit game, then you can bet your ass I'm going to hold every single technical limitation against you. Ha! But no, my only tiny niggle was that some of the platforming challenges did venture into becoming almost frustrating. But luckily, any platforming challenges I happened to have any problems with, I very quickly got past. But apart from that, Lost Solar Side is one of the absolute best video games I have played this year. And yes, I don't know how to talk today. And yes, I do say that with a straight face. It's got action, it's got camaraderie, it's got a great villain, it's got flashy combat, it's got over-the-top action sequences. What more do you bloody want? Therefore, I declare that Lost Solar Side is bloody, stupendously, fantastically splendid. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, my review for Lost Solar Side. If you enjoyed this little review of mine, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. If you haven't enjoyed it, well then feel free to give me a thumbs down. Please remember the single most important thing I always tell you, dear viewer, and that is to always stay obsessed with gaming. Are you still here? Oh, you must have really enjoyed this video then. In that case, you had better subscribe to the channel and check out our other content. Otherwise, you're a booby pants, and no one wants to be a booby pants.